Club Solutions Magazine podcast. Today's guest is the GOAT of member experience, Blair McHaney, the president and CEO of MXM. We talk about everything in regards to member experience, from creating memorable moments to personalizing the customer experience and service recovery when things go wrong. Blair is a faculty member for the Club Solutions Institute and does 2 courses on the member experience. So we do a little bit of a tease into what he covers in those courses and really provide just some great inspiration for those clubs who are looking to really go above and beyond when it comes to offering great customer service and ultimately retaining their members. Enjoy. Well, first off, Blair, thank you for being a faculty member for the Club Solutions Institute. We're honored to have you be a part of that and are so excited about the 2 courses that you filmed on customer service for us.
One, you guys are always fun to work with. Ralph was great, by the way. And the rest of the faculty, that kind of group there, you kind of felt like, yeah, I got to make sure I want to be part of this and I got to make sure I'm on my game, right? So it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And in your courses, you really get into the nuts and bolts of providing great customer service and experience and retention. And so I'm going to ask some questions from some of the things that I even learned just witnessing that course that I wanted to kind of follow up on and learn a little bit more about. In your courses, you describe lots of pleasant surprises without any unpleasant surprises are the essence of great customer service. And I was wondering if you could unpack that for our listeners.
Yeah, let's just start with some like super simple things that you may have experienced, other people may have experienced. You may not have ever said anything about it, but you felt something about it. You ever go into a gym and they have fresh flowers on the counter
Yep.
in a locker room? Those are just pleasant surprises. That's like just the smallest piece. Have you ever received a card, a handwritten card from a gym that just said, Rachel, just thanks for coming in. Yeah, not even I'm not talking about a birthday card. I'm talking about maybe it was right after you had your first child, right? And they just said they noticed, right? They noticed something. Those are pleasant surprises. Here is unpleasant surprises usually come because of a lack of communication. If the pool is down and I'm a swimmer and I come in and I get all showered and ready to go and I go to the pool and it's down, that's like a massive unpleasant surprise. And so a lot of unpleasant surprises are simply a lack of communication. A lot of unpleasant surprises are lack of process, lack of policy, lack of business practice. Most people tend to focus on fixing all the unpleasant surprises. I
Yeah.
like to get people to lean in to think about, well, what are some of the sort of pleasant surprises? What are some of the sort of flowers on the counter that we could do throughout the member experience that just elevates that entire experience? It just changes how people think about the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, our country club has done some kind of cool thing, and they're just small, but they're so noticeable, going from having plastic trash cans to have the golf balls in at the driving range to having, half wine barrels, going from these old sort of towels on the cart to these nice new towels. And they did big things too, like new golf carts. But my point is sometimes it's the smallest of things that people notice. It's the fresh flowers and how to sort of think about that more and more as you think about different member journeys throughout your entire process. Joining is a journey. Visiting every day is a journey. Going into group exercise is a different journey. Canceling is a journey. How do you make that a pleasant surprise, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, the flowers are a small thing, but it does take a ton of intention and leadership, right? Like you can't just randomly come up with this stuff. You have to operationalize it. So, talk to me
that,
a little bit about how clubs can go about doing that and making it a process.
that's the magic word is how do you operationalize it? Okay. And especially for larger companies at scale. But I always remind people that there are a lot of very large companies outside the fitness industry that have operationalized pleasant surprises. They've operationalized the flowers on the counter. They've operationalized these things. A lot of it is just looking and, saying, one, how did they do it? Two, can we afford to do it that way? If we can't afford to do it that way, and bring fresh flowers in every day, and I'm just going to keep using that as just sort of a placeholder as an intellectual exercise here. Can we afford to do them every 2 weeks? And then what is that system going to be? In Wenatchee, Washington here, where, the farmer's market is across the street for 6 months of the year and process can change. But then how do we do that if I'm, a much larger group and trying to do that at scales. I think it's always good to start with beta testing. And I like the term beta test that says it's okay to fail. So frequently when we hear some of these ideas as operators, we think, well, how am I going to do that in all my locations? Don't just, like figure it out for one. Figure out a process for one that can be consistent and is happening and make sure it's not just because if you're one gym in a small community, this might work. You have a real nice member that has a great garden and they bring flowers in once a week, right? That's your deal. But figure it out in a way that isn't just an individual dependency. Like anybody could come on and bring that process in. But that is always the answer is operationalizing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Part of it comes down to as well empowering your staff to be able to make pleasant surprises. Can you speak to how clubs can go about doing that as well and making sure that their employees are empowered to surprise members pleasantly?
A lot of that, empowerment is a couple of things. Empowering people is giving them the right to say yes, not just better ways to say no. And a lot of times we think of empowerment as just problem solving. The member comes and they need to change their contract or they have a contract issue. And if I'm at the front line and I'm not empowered to fix that, then it's got to be escalated. It's a much better experience if people are empowered to, if you don't have to escalate, it's a much better experience always for the member. So there's that level of empowerment. Then there's also the empowerment that says you can empower employees by just teaching them what pleasant surprises are. We use a framework. I use it in the course, right? I use this course about memorable moments and what are everyday memorable moments and, what are over the top memorable moments. It really takes really showing somebody a framework so that you can teach it so that then they can then just see it in real time. That is probably the biggest deal in empowering people to find ways to present pleasant surprises. I love Will Guidara, and when he spoke at what is now HFA, probably one of the best keynotes I've ever seen, he's made a science of the pleasant surprise, right? And
Yeah.
that his book is
Reasonable
Unreasonable
hospitality.
Hospitality. Yeah, and that
Yeah.
every club owner should read Unreasonable Hospitality. And then remember that pleasant surprises come in very small sizes,
Yeah.
very small sizes. And it takes listening to people and asking people questions and learning about people. And I'll say this, teach your staff to be personable, not necessarily personal, right? So personable is you get to know people at a certain level. Personal is like if somebody's sitting at your snack bar and they're talking about life's problems and you don't really need to keep drilling into that, right? That's not really the role. The role is to be personable. Now, look, if it's a serious issue, then yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you step in and help. So I think it's mostly just training people to see when they have the opportunity. What we did to get people to see opportunity to pleasant surprises is we require every front desk person, every group fitness, everybody's got to send out at least two handwritten cards a week. And then we give them things to look for. And once you start to do that, and you say in your team meeting, how many did you send out? And somebody says, I sent out three. I sent out two. I sent out four because they
Yeah.
enjoy it. And then you ask, what did you send those out for? Well, so and so, his mom just passed away. Or I mean, it could be anything from that to, oh, his son just is starting quarterback for the high school football team. Just told me he just got the starting. True story. Just starting, so they wrote a handwritten card there. It's literally looking, and if you can't think of anything, then just say, okay, Rachel's been coming in every day for 5 years, every weekday for 5 years. You know what? I think I'm just going to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Just, I know it hasn't been said, but nice to see your smiling face every day. Pretty big commitment for you to make, especially with a child to be coming in and never miss a workout.
Yeah.
Man, that goes such a long way.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is by creating this kind of like goal that they have to meet, you're forcing them to slow down and think beyond just executing a task and being really present with the membership.
Couldn't have said it better. I've never described it like that, but I'm going to now. Yeah, it is. It is kind of pull yourself out of your whirlwind and stop and notice something. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is slowing down. I
Yeah.
like, and it is pulling yourself out of when you're on autopilot,
Yeah.
checking people in, and here's another pleasant surprise. How many times does somebody buy something at our counter? And almost every club, almost nobody takes much cash anymore. So then when you come up and buy something, If I've never met you before, I see your name on there.
Hmm.
You know that a formal introduction is a pleasant surprise. A
Yep,
reach over the counter to shake somebody's hand in this day and age is a very pleasant surprise. And everything slows down and stops momentarily when you're selling something over the counter. And that's the opportunity to say, oh, Rachel, let me ring that up for you. We haven't met yet. My name's Blair. Very nice to meet you, Rachel. Because you got their name right there. And that is such a great leverage point. That's another pleasant surprise
for
for
sure.
members. Yeah.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see clubs making in trying to provide consistent, great customer service? And I think the key word there is consistent because you can provide customer service, great customer service every once in a while, but to do it consistently is a whole other beast.
Yeah, and you can have great customer service in the middle of a horrible customer experience. So, in other words, I was shipping my golf clubs to Vegas to play golf down there, and I was using them here at home, and they had to go out on Wednesday, and they had to be in Vegas at the golf course on Friday. So, our country club boxed them up using ship sticks, boxed them up, and one of the pros said, "You know what? I want to make sure Blair has his clubs." He personally drove my clubs down on his shift, drove my clubs down to Office Depot to make sure they were there so FedEx would pick them up the next morning.
Wow.
FedEx didn't show up the next morning. I get a text message from Shipsticks. Your clubs weren't picked up. They have not been scanned in. Is it okay if they get there? And they, like 3 days later, after all the golf would have been over. I said, absolutely not. So this guy, Carlos at Shipsticks, goes above and beyond. Like this is a bad experience. Like I don't even know where my freaking
Yeah.
are, right? And they're new clubs, right? And they're custom. No. And so I don't even know where they are. And this guy is fighting like hell to figure out a solution for me. I said, I got to have them there on Friday because of these. And then he contacted our country club. Our country club found that out and they went above and beyond. The head pro then gets in his car, drives down to Office Depot and personally gets my clubs.
Wow.
Carlos from Shipsticks sends him an overnight tag. He puts it on, and they get there when I get to Valley High Golf Course. They're on the golf cart when I got there. Okay, it's a bad experience with great service,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or another one is a veterinary clinic.
Yep.
You go in and you have a pet in trauma, and when those people are compassionate and kind and keep you informed, that's phenomenal. Wow, that was a great experience. Wait a
Yeah.
minute. But
Yeah.
somebody
But it's over something horrible.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think some of the biggest mistakes people make is not recognize the difference between customer service and customer experience. And when you start to think too much about customer service and not customer experience, you leave out the fact that your equipment repair process is a critical part of the member experience. Your housekeeping process is a critical part of the member experience. So not understanding like the fundamentals and really putting in the effort of getting those things right. Like
Yeah.
really putting in the effort. Too much sort of change by memo, and that doesn't happen. You've got to manage through processes, you got to do change management. I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I see people see. The other big mistake I see people say, frankly, is just chasing net promoter score. In other
Yeah.
words, here's our net promoter score. Now, it's absolutely fundamental, I believe, to measure net promoter score, know how you're measuring it. I see companies that use it as a vanity metric. In other
Yeah.
words, the way that they do their sampling, their ability to change a detractor into a promoter, completely antithetical to what you should be doing. Then you end up with this inflated net promoter score that your ego can feel good about. And it's just BS, right? It's not what you want with that is you want apps, just give me the harsh reality. Just
Yeah.
I want what's real, what's really happening. Then just keep that over there and look at it over here, but don't manage it. Manage everything that's driving it. Like, where do you have negative sentiment? A lot of negative sentiment. What scores are low? And manage those things that you can actually manage day to day and do something operationally. And then look over there after a while and you're going to see it's way
Yeah.
better. And then look at your attrition and look at your spend and look at all the other ROI elements of delivering a better and better customer experience, better and better member experience. Just think about you personally. If I'm the CEO of a big company And I'm not dying on the hill of customer experience or member experience. There's something wrong. How you live your own life. You would say, if you had shitty service somewhere, you'd say, I'm not going to do business with them. If they mishandled something, I'm not going to do business with them. Just because you're on the other side of the counter, those things don't change, right? That's
Yeah.
yeah, the customers feel that. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. Well, you were talking a little bit about service recovery when something has gone wrong. Is there any other tips that you could share on how to handle those types of situations and to kind
Yeah.
of turn them into a positive?
Yeah, so the research on service recovery, I won't bore you with the entire work that Case Western University did, but the research on service recovery says this. Yes, apologize once. Yes, be friendly, but way more important to turn into focus. Be diligent. Immediately work hard to solve the problem. Carlos at Shipsticks, right? Tanner at the country club. They worked hard to solve the problem. It's fine to say, I am so sorry that happened, and let me see what I can do to fix it, and then go to work. People notice the work that you put in. So in their study over lost baggage, they found out that if they didn't get a resolution, they still had a better experience than people who, when people got a resolution, but the person across the counter just kept apologizing and apologizing. The reaction was it seemed like they were kind of dumb and didn't know how to fix it. The person that sort of apologized and went into being very efficacious, even when there wasn't a resolution, they had a better experience because of how hard somebody worked for you,
Gotcha.
right? I mean, somebody is working hard to solve the problem. Staff friendliness is super important. Sometimes that's not the metric. Sometimes it's, like in
Results.
great clinics, it might be how comforting were they?
Yeah.
How, because being super cheerful and friendly when something's wrong with my dog is probably not the right approach, right? So
Yeah.
really understanding the situation, but in service recovery, yep, smile, let them know you can get something done, apologize, but then go to work. Work hard to get it done. And then even if you can't get it done, they'll feel much better about it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Another thing you talk about in the course is just the importance of personalization. So, like remembering names, noticing details to create a sense of belonging. Why is belonging so critical to the member experience?
There's a great quote from Peter Block. He said that belonging is the opposite of thinking that wherever I am, I'd be better off somewhere else. And so the more belonging that somebody has, the more they would never think that they would be better off somewhere else. And so making people feel like that, you're sort of validating that they're part of this tribe. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing when you offer the right sort of, what we call them king in compliments, a key in compliment. When it's not, God, you look awesome today. It's, God, I love the new no bull shoes.
Yeah.
Do you like them? And are you doing all your workouts in those? Or, I mean, it's noticing things, giving the right appropriate compliment. That says to people that, yeah, I belong here. Also, just sort of imprinting and finding things that are in common. And it can be freaking anything. And it doesn't have to be in common with you. It could be in common with your brother. Oh, did you go to University of Washington? Yeah, so my brother went to University of Washington. Yeah, he was in Phi Kappa or whatever, right? And it's really teaching those opportunities. That's the personalization side. Remembering names is the personalization side. The introduction when somebody's purchasing something is the personalization side. The
Yeah.
anticipating need once you see that people have a pattern whenever they come in, or anticipating need when you see somebody coming in with their arms full of diaper bags and stuff and opening the door. And all of that is part of personalization, right? It's
Yeah.
about you. It's about the member, that member. Yeah.
Yeah. And it really turns everything into less of a transaction and more of an actual membership, which is really what, gyms are. It's a hospitality experience. It's not just buying a product.
We need to think way more. I mean, I've heard it said a lot in our industry. I just haven't seen it executed well in our industry of that we are hospitality. That's what we are. The hospitality, especially those that really get it right consistently, and it's all the usual suspects, Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, Hyatt, they understand that these basic things like how clean a place is part of hospitality. You could go out there and focus on just the friendliness part of this. Yes, please go out and focus on the friendliness part of it. But if you're slow on repairing your equipment, I go into a lot of gyms that I've seen some that are so freaking spotless. I think they have a core competency here. I've seen
Yeah.
others where they don't even realize how dirty they are, but the member sees it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you kind of lose faith in everything. If they can't even have a clean gym floor or whatever, it's like, well, then how am I going to be able to trust them to do anything?
Yep, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I keep leaning on this equipment repair and I keep leaning on cleanliness. And the reason for that is we are in gyms. And that is such a massive part of the experience. That's a massive part of the experience. You can get everything else right, but
Well, we can talk about this for hours, and you do in the course for
yeah.
the CS Institute. So maybe end with just a final kind of takeaway for those who may be listening that you'd really like to impart.
If you're not focused on member experience, if you're not measuring member experience, then you don't really have a strategy. You don't. And strategy is about problem solving. And you don't know the problems that you need to solve. And so you have to have some way of measuring that in an ongoing basis. I got to tell a quick story about a customer, and it's about Gainesville Health and Fitness. I had a call with Adrian Antigua yesterday, doing a catch up on some stuff. Talk about intentional. And I even said to him, I said, we're going through all their entire ticketing system on equipment. We're going through a lot of stuff, but I had him bring up their ticketing system on equipment repair and how they look at it, how alerts go out, and what they're doing with it. And I said, we don't do this enough in this industry. Do we just assume that everybody knows how to do this? I'm telling you, that is a core competency of theirs. That's a core competency. And that should be taught. My point about that is don't leave stuff to chance.
Yeah.
And when you're focusing on member experience, you got to be extremely intentional. And sometimes it's going to take some upfront work, but you'll stop chasing symptoms. You got to do root cause. He had done root cause on equipment repair. And one small example from that, LED lights behind their mirrors in the locker rooms. When those go out, it takes a long time to get one in. And so Adrian was talking to his team and they said, well, they're on order, right? And he hates that. They're on order. This is what I mean by a lot of times people think something's out of their control and it's not. So what Adrian's doing is he's having the electrician come in and install outlets behind every mirror where you can't see them. So that if those go out, they can buy their own strip LED and plug it in and put it behind the mirror as a temporary solution until the part comes in.
Nice.
So now that's how to think about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that's the intentionality of it. So yeah,
Yeah, but that goes back to their culture and Joe Cerulli's leadership
yeah,
and emphasis on, thinking through the customer's experience and empowering his team to make sure that they execute upon that.
totally empowered, totally empowered that team, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, again, we could talk for hours, but yeah, if people want to learn more, I really encourage them to check out your course on the Club Solutions Institute because
Please
it's a
do.
master class and you are the GOAT in customer experience, Blair. So we
Well, thank you,
appreciate
Rachel.
it.
Thank you. Always good to see you, Rachel.